Great, thanks very much, Mark, and a warm welcome to everyone. Some lovely familiar faces and also new faces here. So, yes, I mean, really, this is just such a welcoming community. And as Mark said, I just felt that Hyacinth has been my friend for a few years now. So I just thought that it would just be valuable for me to welcome her and to give her an opportunity to share her story, really, because it's been I know that her story has been eventful over the years. And I was just thinking about, what to say about Hyacinth, but my goodness, I mean, Hyacinth for me is just such a warm soul. And we were just talking last night, and I was having a bit of a stress myself, and she just knows what to say and when to say it just at the right time, and it's just so comforting to have somebody like that in your life. So, and I thought, don't keep it to myself, share it really with those who may resonate with her story. So, my goodness, I mean, Hyacinth, she has dedicated her life to the community. You've seen from the bio on the website for numerous causes, but also for us women, supporting us women particularly who've gone through adversity and trauma. So I really wanted for her to just share a little bit about that and how she helps women through her coaching, through her mentoring, through her workshops and one-to-one. She's a speaker, an author, and a coach, as I said. So really just wanted to be able to give her that opportunity to share the wider message. So we're really going to just focus more in the first half of our session more about the story, but then moving into the second half more about Hyacinth's professional work, and really just to give you some guidance and tips if you do want to undertake that. And going into 2021, I mean, yeah, as Mark said at the beginning, right, there's just we thought we were going to be out of it, but we're clearly not. So I myself am going through some pivotal moments as well. So this may be a beneficial session for you. So with that, ETW, please welcome Hyacinth.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. You're going to have to bear with me because the workmen, I can hear them outside, but I'm not going to listen to them. Just let me know if my volume.
We'll ignore them.
Okay, and then I'll just speak louder when they start drilling again. It's really nice to be here, actually. I was hoping you wasn't going to say the speaker part because I don't belong to any speaking associations. I just talk from the heart, so that always makes me nervy when people say that. But my story. My story. So I grew up in Hackney in London in the 70s, and it was in quite a notorious estate where really wasn't expected to achieve anything. So I think from a young age, I already knew about what adversity was, and also about how society kind of positions people according to your environment and your circumstances. I decided actually at the age of 15 that there must be other people that are worse off than we are, because I grew up in a house with domestic violence, a lot of abuse, and my escape was actually writing, doing my art, and then starting to get involved in my local adventure playground. And I started volunteering actually at the age of 15 because I thought there must be, to distract myself from what was going on, there must be something else I can do. And that's what I started to do. That's how I started to get into community work, actually. I then also decided to be quite a rebel. And every time someone told me I couldn't do something, I pushed the boundaries. And that resulted in, at the age of 21, being the first person in our generation, in my mum's side of the family. So my mum's white English, in our 5 generations to attend university, actually. And that was really good to just be able to break out of that. And I think when I'd done that, I realised actually it doesn't matter where you come from, what things you've been through, you can actually achieve. And for me, it feels like that was a lot of the grounding for a lot more adversity that was to come, but also finding the tools and the tips and just the way I can share the story now as I'm approaching 49 next month with others to just overcome, because we're always going through challenges. Yeah, it just feels really strange doing my story like that. But also at the age of 26, I had my first son, and within 6 months I became a single parent. So that was another adversity to go through. And I think for women, when that happens and you're kind of shocked into that, it's a really it's a journey that's really hard. It's hard to explain to anybody. But I actually just decided to just carry on. I was still doing my community work. I was still doing volunteering. And by that time I was working in some of the charities as a trustee. I'd actually finished doing work in some of the prisons for people that were lifers and had no family visiting. And I'd also finished doing work with people that had HIV and AIDS, for an organisation doing health promotion when no one kind of wanted to do that work in the early 90s. Wow, my story took another turn when I had my second set of children, actually in 2006, and then I lost my youngest son, who was 3 weeks old. They were both born very early, at 23 weeks. And my son, who I still have now, who's 14, spent 6.5 months in hospital, 4 months in intensive care, 6 weeks in special care, and a 6-week in pediatrics. So I kind of began this journey again of what to do. I was then a carer. And what else really to do with my life? I'd done most of what I wanted to do in community work. And I just decided at that time the only thing I could do, being a full-time carer, was to start to get back into my art, and then start to think about setting up my self-employment business as an artist and a writer. And as he started to get older, so by the time he was about 5 or 6, then obviously he started to get diagnosed with special educational needs. He already had disabilities. He has chronic lung disease as well. But for me, I thought the only way I can show him that he can overcome anything is actually to really model it. And that's when I really started getting back into working with women. I mean, I never actually, it wasn't paid. It was just women I knew, women in the school playgrounds, women I knew in other organisations. And I just started informal mentoring with them, really. And I feel like that's the main parts actually of the story that I wanted to actually share. But what I really wanted to say is, regardless of what we're going through, there are always ways out, and it can feel so overwhelming. Even now, if you take what's happening now, it really is challenging for a lot of people. But I think the thing that's kept me going and also helped me to overcome some of the most serious things a woman can go through and people can go through, actually, is to actually continue focusing on what I can control and focusing on what I do want, rather than getting just concentrating on what it is the actual problem. So yeah, so basically I think 2013 I became self-employed. That's when I done my jewellery and my art. Done that for 2 years, and then I started to really miss the whole sense of community. And then I started working with women in, I think it was 2017. So it's only been 3 years doing this formal coaching work, really, and overcoming adversity. But I always worked with women throughout all of my 33 years in community, and also worked with young girls at that time as well, from 13 to 16. Yeah, so I was really just going to kind of briefly just talk about the 7 practical steps for overcoming any adversity.
Sure. Okay. But before we move into that, Hyacinth, I mean, yeah, just a few things that you just touched on. Thank you so much for just giving us a whistle stop. I mean, there's just so many accounts that you talk about in your book. So yeah, I would really encourage people just to have a look, because some of the accounts that you do talk about, you're like, oh my gosh. And particularly for being a carer, I'm still a carer up to now. Just talk about really from the early stages and to now, really, what was that like, and how's it different if it is? How old is your son now? I can't quite remember.
He's 14 now.
14, yes.
Yeah. He's actually in the other room doing his maths lesson right now.
Homeschooling.
So I've got my keep outside unless it's a really emergency.
Ring mom if you need anything.
Yeah. So do you know, that was quite a tough journey, because I think doing that also alone, because he spent so long in the hospital, and I had my other son was 7 at the time, and obviously as a single parent, I was running between dropping off my son, going straight to the hospital, sometimes being told he's critically ill, and then having to come back to pick up my son and try to run my house as normal as possible, because I didn't want my son to be really alarmed at what was going on. But when his brother was really quite sick, then I would pick him up from school and we'd go straight back to the hospital. And it was quite tough. The first 6 years he was under 4 different hospitals. So I had 4 to 5 appointments a week. There was no way I could actually, I couldn't go back to work because of that. And also because of the level of care, he came home on oxygen. So he was on oxygen for the first 18 months. And that was 24-hour a day oxygen. So I had to wean him on that oxygen as well. It was actually a lot. And he was on 16 medications. So I wasn't able to get more than 2 hours sleep because he needed meds at the time as well.
Gosh.
And he was also non-verbal until he was 2 years old. So there was lots of challenges, but I think for me, I just kept on thinking, okay, what else can I do? Because now I've never had a 9 to 5, actually, I must say. I've just loved being quite a free spirit and just working on projects and community organisations and charities that I really like, and then just kind of stick with them for 2 to 3 years and move on to something else. And I've been like that from a child. So for me, I was thinking, what else? And when I was trying to get back into the job market, it was so hard. The summer of I think it was 2012, I applied for 67 jobs, and I had 2 interviews for probably the lowest paid, worst jobs that I could do, like, lower than I was ever getting paid before. But because I was a single mum, I had to fit it around the school hours. And when that was the best I could do, and I thought, with all my experience, 30 plus years in the community, 30 years extra further education I've done just for myself, and I thought that can't be the best I can do. So I actually started to think about what I can do at home, and that's what started to lead me down becoming self-employed, because I couldn't see any other way out, and I just thought I needed it to fit around my family as it was then.
Did you feel that you had enough support at the time, and even now, actually, because you still do need that support from formalized services, so to speak? I mean, it's 14 years now. So what are your thoughts from then and now, really, in terms of the level of support that you're getting?
I mean, my support was mostly my mum and a few close friends. To tell you the truth, I never ever really got support from professionals. It was only for appointments. And I felt like we had enough invasion actually with just going to hospitals for 5 times a week. I
Yeah.
actually just didn't, I didn't want anything else. But now, I mean, it's changed quite a lot now. So
Yeah.
he's 14 now. Just before the lockdown, he just started to go to school on his own. So I'd just given up the taking him to school stuff actually about 4 or 5 months before the March lockdown actually,
Yeah.
which was liberating because he's very he's nearly 15 actually, but he has a range of disabilities from dyslexia to dyspraxia processing, and just his understanding of the world is just very different for a 14-year-old. Hence why I had to take him to school, because it's like 2 buses away, and all of that. But I mean, it's really nice to see him becoming independent now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it's been hard work. It's been hard work because I've had to do that as his mother, but also as a holistic therapist that I am. So I've had to, well, I've used him as my client to get him well. And also I kind of pushed the thing to him. There are no barriers. His disabilities are his abilities. So he's a St. John's ambulance cadet. He's a qualified first aider.
Oh gosh,
I mean,
14. My goodness.
he is. He's actually won an award. He's actually, oh, it's over there, but he's won an award for services, 4 years service to community.
Oh, yes,
So
I
he's
remember.
been out on like the marathon. He's done some of the things. Actually, they just wanted to start him on the Duke of Edinburgh award as well, but it's just been halted at the moment. And he's already a published writer. He's published stuff in a book when he was 10. And I've just kind of tried to instill some of the stuff that took me years to kind of develop the confidence to be. Actually, we can just be. We just get over our stuff, our adversities, and we just just create our life, really.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, good. Oh, wow. What a young man already. 14.
Yeah, 14. I know. He actually said, "I beat you. I've already got my award, and you haven't got an award yet."
That's great, isn't it? Really, I mean, that's just a testament, really, to not just your mothering, but just as you said, in terms of just instilling your life's philosophy onto him, and it seems as though he's absorbed it and actually put it into practice and already going out into the world and doing what he should doing what he should be doing right now. So cool. All right, well, listen, let's move it on in terms of moving forward. 2021 and beyond. So explain yourself really in terms of the 7 steps that you've outlined, but just to give a bit of a précis to our members. But so Hyacinth has developed a 7-step program which she uses and also uses for yourself already, isn't it? In your personal life. So yeah, just give us a bit of a flavor really in terms of what you've created and how not just for your own personal life, in terms of how you use that when you are conducting your workshops and coaching with one-to-ones.
Okay, first and foremost, I know it sounds really cliche, the whole 7-step thing, so I'm going to tell you quickly. The 7-step process was actually, I dreamt a lot about how I've overcome things, because people kept on saying to me, how have you overcome this? How did you do that?
Yeah.
So I started really doing a lot of deep reflection. I meditate a lot daily anyway. Started to dream a lot, and then before I knew it, the whole of these 7 steps were down, and I thought, actually, this is what I live my life by. And even now, during this whole lockdown, this is what I do for myself every day. So the 7 steps really is, the first step is about embracing. So it's about embracing yourself and the life you actually have, where you are, where you want to be. I'm going to stop distracting myself with these notes. And just knowing that everything happens for a reason. And by embracing, I mean, I know we're going through lots of situations that are really tough and it's hard to accept. It's about accepting that. And when we start with acceptance, then we can start moving on to what is it we want to do about it. So second step is about motivation, and that's about thinking about how you motivate yourself, because I think most of us realize we kind of go through life expecting others to motivate us, and realize it has to start with us. It starts with us first, and then any other motivation we receive from outside is a bonus. So how do you do that? What kind of morning routine do you have? I mean, I use meditation and journaling, and I listen to a lot of podcasts and you know, really inspiring talks. But all of us will find different ways of how we motivate ourselves. And then once we've started to really motivate ourselves, then we can go through this problem daily. And then the next step is actually about power, and that's about taking back the power in a situation, but thinking about how we're going to overcome it. So then we're thinking about maybe strategies for how we're going to overcome this, what options there are and what solutions. And then the fourth step is about overcoming adversity. And actually, my logo for the Empower 7 is a Sankofa bird. And a Sankofa bird, I don't know if you know, is a bird in Ghana, in Africa. And that bird really represents looking back in order to look forwards. So it means looking at your back, looking back at your past in order to move forwards. And when you're thinking about overcoming adversity, really, it's so tough, and sometimes we think we can't overcome it. If you look back at some of the things you've already been through that were really tough, and I mean, sit down, write them out, not just think about them, write them out, write out the positive things you learned from that experience, and the negative. And the positive things are the things you want to keep, and the negative things are the things that really you want to try to work on for yourself. The fifth step is about wellness. So when we're going through our challenge, I don't know about you, but I used to do things of skipping meals, not sleeping properly, all this kind of stuff. But it's actually about thinking about how to keep yourself well, especially with sleep, food and water at the time, and then other ways of mental wellness. So that can be like taking up things you love, even if it's half an hour break in a day to do something you really love. That actually drives you forward for the next day. And I always say to people, when you're going through a lot of adversity, try not to think about the future too far ahead. Just actually take one day at a time. Try to make that day a really good day. And then before you know it, you get into a kind of rhythm of that. Step number 6 is about emotional intelligence and reflecting on the way that you act and behave towards others. And it's really about this noise is so distracting for me. The emotional. It's so loud. They've actually got the proper driller thing down. So the emotional intelligence is thinking about how you interact with people. So you know, sometimes you can get really quite snappy when you're going through a lot of things. So just realize, okay, you know that you get like this. So if someone maybe pushes your buttons or triggers you, what can you do? And sometimes that's literally, I mean, when I couldn't get peace from my children, I used to literally just go to the toilet. That's the only place I could lock the door for like 5 seconds, breathe, and then come back out and then just approach it again. So it's really thinking about how you communicate and handle your emotions actually in challenging times. And then the last step is about resilience, and that's really about looking at everything you've overcome, but also thinking about how you've developed as a person and what that's taught you. Because I do believe that after a lot of serious kind of challenge, it kind of, in a way, it makes or breaks you. And I don't know if you've heard about the theory. I can't remember who coined it, but it's actually called post-traumatic growth. And it's that every time we go through something really serious, like we've either got a chance to grow or to almost like break sometimes. So I just really think about, okay, what is it I've learned? What can I do better next time? Because we're always going to have the challenges, and it's just really about doing that. And that's that's how I live my life. And that's really, I take women through the processes of that so that they've got the time to sit down, really go through this. So we do a lot of creative exercises and really a lot of reflection in their life. And yeah, that's how that is actually. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, the deep, the first thing you said at the beginning in terms of deep reflection, I think it's not just a one-off, but yeah, I think you of course you need to take stock, right, about what's
Yeah.
present and the past, and exactly what you're doing in terms of how to look forward. Actually, the one thing I wanted to ask you before I open it up to the floor, really, for just on the motivation point, maybe you can just expand that a little bit more, particularly if you are in a bit of a slump right now, with not even just what's gone on, just the cumulative effect really of that. So if you are somebody right now who's just being a bit about things, not just from the pandemic, but there could be a whole variety of reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, what sort of what how how do you approach that really in terms of that motivation piece? I mean, I was actually on another session uh, this week really, and yeah, that whole, you can give people the tools and the process, but it's something within you that I don't know, it's probably up for debate really, in probably beyond my remit as well, but is it something that's actually inherent within you, or something that can be developed with the help of somebody like yourself? So yeah, I found that quite an interesting question when they're comparing people, how when everyone's fed from the same hand,
Mm-hmm.
some people go there and then others just completely. So yeah, maybe
Yeah.
it's a bit more about the whole motivation piece.
I think really with the motivation, I feel like it's something that you kind of have to learn, because
Mm, mm,
inherently we are usually motivated, but I think when we're starting to go through challenges, and also when we're starting to look at our life in a different way and starting to really push the boundaries and really start to go after our dreams, our passions or our purpose, I think we have to find our own way of developing that. So for me, I feel like I've always been motivated, but there was a time when I really started with doubting whether I could actually achieve what I wanted to achieve, like live the life I wanted to, do this work, which is my purpose work, have the life that I want and all of this. And I actually started off, I've always done meditation. So meditating I've been doing for about nearly 30 years.
mhm.
But I know that doesn't always resonate with people.
Yeah, yeah,
Journaling I've done for a long time as well, so I use journaling. But I just think something as simple as vision boards, and I know people always talk about vision boards almost like they're kind of no use, but if you've got that visual reminder every
yeah.
day,
That
then
physicality.
on top of
Mm,
that you find tools that actually really sing to you, really. So for me, I was listening to motivational talks. I mean, YouTube was just getting used non-stop. Motivational talks sometimes for like half an hour. Half an hour I do about now, but
yeah.
I'm talking about, I was listening to some of those talks for 4 or 5 hours a day,
Wow,
just
wow.
because I was actually working on my own at that time, and I still wasn't sure whether I would be able to achieve what I wanted to. And I had a group of people around, but it wasn't enough. So I think actually I hate that word, finding your tribe, but just finding some people that are in similar positions that can stretch you, but also people that are where you are, that you're comfortable to just kind of talk
Mhm,
and feel supported,
mhm, mhm.
using things like the vision boards, motivational talks, journaling and writing. I know a lot of people find a lot of peace in doing art.
Yeah,
It's whatever, playing an instrument, anything that kind of takes you into your really happy place, and then you can start thinking about what it is you want to create and go back to it. Because sometimes, and I think especially now where we're kind of in our houses all day, if you're working from home and you're not used to that, the work is invading your home space.
yeah, yeah.
It can feel quite
Absolutely.
tedious as well, actually
Yeah,
working from home all the time, When it's your
Day to
choice,
day.
it's a bit different.
Mm.
So actually, even just breaking that works. If you know you want to do, I don't know, 5 or 6 hour day, break it at some point in the middle of the day for half an hour to do something you really love, some other kind of hobby or something else, and then come back to it. Because usually when we kind of break away from something and we're not in that pushing energy, then we end up with the ideas, or we end up with the answers to some of the other challenges that we normally have. Hope that doesn't sound too airy-fairy. I do lots of really strange things. I use my crystals. I do all kinds of stuff.
No, not at
But
all.
you
I
just
think,
have to find your stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's it really. That's what we're trying to say, really. Just to, not all of it will resonate with everyone, but at least give yourself that space to really, going back to the deep reflection, and breaking that chain when you do find yourself going into that place. So wonderful. So I'm just going to actually tell them to be quiet.
I know, that's really loud. They're right outside my window.
They have a lunch break. I thought workmen have like 4-hour lunch breaks.
Why did they stop?
But I'm going to just quickly open it up to the floor. If you want to put your cameras on, and just unmute yourself if you do have any questions, or just comments of feedback for Hyacinth. If there's anything burning that you'd want to comment on, or you want to ask Hyacinth, do please do unmute yourself and fire away. Really, if there's anyone in the room who's got a burning question or comments or anything from anyone outside of the workmen.
I can't believe they decided to start today, though. On the only day I've got.
That's typical.
Yeah, exactly.
Hyacinth, go and tell them to go have lunch. So I've got a question. One thing I find fascinating about your story was actually your start in life.
Yeah.
You talked about growing up in a tough environment, in a tougher state, with a backdrop of domestic violence. How has that changed you as an adult? And the way you bring your children up?
I think what that's actually done for me is made me just extremely grateful, actually, for anything, because I don't know, it is quite tough in a way. I mean, I was really, I think, like a lot of people, until I was a young woman, I was really angry with, like, why did I have to grow up in an environment like this? And, why was my life like that? But I'm actually so grateful now, because I'm thinking it's actually taught me so many skills that I probably would not have learned, or it would have taken me much longer to actually learn. So I think that's what's been my drive for really just improving and just doing better. And for myself, I don't want my children growing up in an estate. The estate I grew up in is no longer there anyway. And it was quite notorious. Even the police wouldn't come onto our estate. So that's what I'm talking about, that kind of thing. Not being able to go out, just kind of in your house until we got to 15 and started to go to the adventure playground. I just think, I'm just in gratitude actually for all of it. Now I can see now where all the pieces fit for everything we go through in our life. So even if you're just reflecting back on everything you have gone through in your life, you can actually see why you've gone through those things to either help somebody else or just be able to use that as maybe part of your kind of genius or in your work.
Brilliant, thank you.
Hyacinth, I've got your book in front of me, and quite often at the end of each step there's the affirmation bit. Affirmations is something that I've heard of a lot. My friends do it. I find it really uncomfortable. Do you have any tips of how to kind of break that barrier? Because I know it's tried and tested, and putting out good thoughts can obviously be really beneficial.
just really find ones that resonate with you. I know it is tough, because if they don't resonate with you, you just feel like you're just talking nonsense to whatever you're doing it to the air, to the mirror, whatever else. But I do have on Spotify, I do have a short kind of meditation that's on there to help you find your own I am affirmations. So I can send the link to you as well afterwards, and you can forward it.
Yeah.
But just really find ones that resonate. If you even if you silence yourself maybe for say like 10 or 15 minutes, put on some music that's really instrumental piece of music, and just really sit down and think about. And I'm not talking about going into deep kind of logical thinking. I'm just thinking about things that come to you. I am, maybe people have said to you, and you can actually write those down, and then you can use those. Or you can actually, what I've asked people sometimes to do is to text 5 to 7 people that you know, and actually ask them to say what are your top 3 qualities, what they really like about you. And then the last one, if you really want honest feedback, is to ask what they think you could improve. And then you get a range of really lovely qualities and characteristics that you might have known about yourself, but you wasn't really sure. Or ones that you know you can actually use and think about for the future, really. That's a really good exercise, yeah.
No, I totally resonate with that actually, Katie, because sometimes when you read affirmations from somebody else, they just don't sound like me, you know, just like, God, it feels really unnatural. But I just found out she's writing my own.
Yeah,
because it's
I always think it's better to come from yourself, really, as well.
Finding your own. I mean, you may use them initially as inspiration, but I think your own are just your own. It's unique to you. Yeah, it shouldn't feel unnatural. Yeah. Anyone else with any comments or questions before we close?
I've got questions.
Yeah,
I don't know if you can all hear me.
Yeah.
My question is, Hyacinth, regarding I guess compartmentalizing your life. So I've got an 8-year-old now, and there's days when the morning is just terrible. You wake up late, you're rushing to, to get to the school on time. You do that, you get to the office, and you're just so flustered because, yeah, you've made it on time, but everything that's happened prior to that is just completely drained you. How do you, I guess, stay present in that moment and then reset and then think, okay, that was one thing, and now I'm in a different, I'm getting to do something different. How do you compartmentalize that? I've had to rush in the morning, I'm in work now, and I'm in work mode. How do you do that? I find it difficult to switch off.
You know what? Oh my gosh, I can really, I can resonate with that in a way, actually. But what I would actually say is, I don't know if you can even just go to the toilet as soon as you get to work, but just spend 5 minutes grounding yourself, actually, just really grounding, because what's just happened before you got there is actually now past. So now the only way to work is actually being in the present. So you can write anything that's really outstanding, you can write it down that you need to deal with afterwards, but just really try and focus on what is happening now. I just think to avoid, I suppose, things like waking up late. I wake up quite early, but even if you can try and wake up maybe 20 minutes or half an hour earlier than your I don't know if it's a son or daughter, than your child, so that you feel like you've had some kind of rest before you become mum again, and then afterwards you have to become whatever your role is after that. Because it actually really helps then if things start going wrong in the morning, like maybe the child is tired or they're walking too slow, all this kind of stuff that goes on when you're trying to do the school rush. It actually makes it not as intensified, like emotionally you're not so in it. So I hope that's answered your question, or it's a bit more.
Yeah, that is that's great advice, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else before I hand over to Mark for closing remarks? Don't think so. So perfect. I mean, thank you so much, Hyacinth. I mean, just pleasure. I obviously known you for how many years now and read your book, but still, just even some of the things that you've just said, that they were new to me. So yeah, just such a beautiful dialogue really in terms of what you've given us. So yeah, guys, I really would encourage you to head over to the website and take a look at Hyacinth's work if some of it does resonate with you. And yeah, Mark.
Christelle, Hyacinth, thank you very much. Sorry, Hyacinth, did you want to?
No. I just want to say thank you so much, Ashley.
But Hyacinth, thank you very much. Big clap for Hyacinth. And Christelle, thank you for introducing us and bringing Hyacinth along and leading today's coffee break. Wonderful, big claps all around. And what an inspiring story. I believe we have, and Hyacinth's kindly given us a couple of copies of her books. Are they with you, Katie? Yeah. So our plan as a community is to share them. So please, if you want a copy, reach out to Katie, read them, and then pass them on to the next person in the group. And Katie can organise that. So reach out to Katie if you want a copy of the book to read. Otherwise, I'm guessing and there's details online of how you can buy it if you want your own copy, which would be lovely as well. So wonderful. Listen, that sort of wraps it up for this week, and thank you very much. It's great to see everybody again. Next week, we're joined by Gail, who's joined us this week as well. So hi, Gail, give us a quick wave. You're on camera there. Gail's got a really interesting background, so almost 2 decades in the city, working at the end for JP Morgan as a director in equity sales and trading in Asian equities. She's also, I read from her LinkedIn profile, a world champion triathlete. So Gail, we've got a lot in common, and I look forward to talking to you next week. Gail's headline says she helps men and women to recreate themselves after a heartbreak and to transform their life beyond what they thought was even possible. So, wow. Come along next week and meet Gail. The week after that, we've got another inspiring and interesting guest who is the ex-Chief Constable of Sussex. And he'll be talking about diversity in the police force and diversity in policing, as well as sharing his story. So do come along and make a note in your diaries to come along and join us for that. Katie, have I left anything out?
No, just I know that you've obviously seen on LinkedIn and the WhatsApp group, we've obviously got the Alpha Career Club starting on Monday. I think we've got 1 or 2 spaces left, so if anyone requires support there. And we've also got our group with Sonia, mental wellbeing sessions. Again, I think we've got 1 more space for that as well. So if you or you know anyone who really requires that kind of level of support at the moment, just pop in touch with me or go onto the website.
Lovely. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming along. I'll be hanging around if anyone just wants a chat at the end. Otherwise, see you next week. Thank you very much. And Hyacinth and Crystal, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.